Okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our session. Krista will be taking us through our H3C CAS hypervisor, going a little bit more detail and also providing a demonstration. Just a few housekeeping rules. During the demonstration part, I think, Krista, that'll be pretty interactive, right?
Yep. If anybody's got any questions, put up a hand.
Okay.
If you can field those for me, Mark, then we can answer those questions. Interrupt if you want, guys. If there's something that's unclear, please shout.
Yeah. You can also post your questions in the Q&A section of this as well, and then we'll get to those as well. And as always, afterwards, we will upload this to our H3C Africa YouTube channel to be able to look at later as well. Please keep yourself muted unless you are answering, and then mute yourself again afterwards, please, so you don't have any background noise interrupting us. Without further ado, then, thank you so much. I see, Ivan, you put your hand up. Are you good?
I'm good, thank you. Apologies.
No worries. All good. All right. Thanks so much, Krista. You can start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining on this lovely Friday morning. It's been a while since we've had one like this in Joburg. Thanks for taking the time. Today, I'm going to take you through CAS in a little bit more detail. Still not going to try and bore you with too much details. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christos Lias. I work for H3C. I am the pre-sales / systems engineer for the IT portfolio of products. And I said I must put my title in the slide, so I decided we'll make it Mr. for today. Okay. Anyways, right. So I'm going to dive right into it because I would like to get to the demo portion of the training quite quickly. I think that's where we're probably going to spend most of our time. But there's a few things that we need to discuss quickly. And this is important, especially for people that knows very little about CAS, or some new people that might be in the audience that doesn't know CAS at all. So if we look at our CAS product, it is a product that we've been developing for the last 14 going on to 15 years now. Initially started in 2009 when we took KBM and we started using and developing that as a bare metal hypervisor. KBM at the point was a very good choice because of the massive amount of people that used it, and is a huge, open source community looking after these products, and we're developing these products. It made a lot of sense for us to do so. Now, over the years, we've been adding more and more features and functions, and we've done some very core upgrades on the actual kernel to make it a little bit more enterprise ready and harden it properly from a security perspective, making sure that it's something that you will not only be using for a small environment, but it can scale to very large installs, and that's pretty much where we are at this point in time. This is a product that, as I say, has been available for 14 years. So we didn't do this in a knee-jerk reaction to what's happened to VMware. No, we are not into vendor bashing. I want to make that clear. And from this demo and from this training, you will see that we're not into trying to take VMware out of the picture, but we are also not dumb enough to understand that what they have been doing to their customers has not been very kind. The way that they've structured the licensing, right now, the cost of the licensing and the mere fact that they came out and said publicly that they are looking to only deal with the 500, blue chip companies in the world, um, that that had a lot of people and have a lot of people scrambling. Um, we've known about this for quite some time, and we have been doing these demos and these training sessions with, I would say, I'm not saying tens of people. I would probably start talking maybe towards the hundreds. But now I actually see there's almost like an urgency coming out of the market at the moment because you know what people do is, right? They stick it on the back burner and then they wait for it. And then when it becomes a crisis, then it's a mad scramble for something that can assist. Well, that's exactly where CAS comes into play, and that is where CAS and VMware will actually, it works very well together, and how we can take that going forward into a strategy for the customer to give him safe harbor, because that's pretty much where we are now. Now, CAS has been a building block in our hyperconverged solution for the last 10, 12 years. It's actually been our best kept secret. It's always been in our cloud product and it's always been in our HCI product, but it was never a standalone product. And that's what we did do when the whole VMware debacle started playing itself out. We made the product available for everybody. We made it available that you can install it on any hardware, on any industry standard type server. We can install it on HP, on Dell, Supermicro. I've gone so far as to install it onto small HP micro servers and PCs, and it works very, very well. So the product has now become something that is a hardware agnostic product. So with that in mind, yes, we still sell H3C hardware, and we do would like to have it on H3C hardware. There is a few points that we can show on what makes it better to run on H3C hardware. But overall, for people right now and the predicament that they are sitting in, it is not a necessary thing. Okay, it doesn't have to be. So something that we are extremely proud of is the fact that we have won the SpecVert competition, which is an international competition for testing hypervisors and how they behave. We've won that a few times, and currently we are the world record holder for that. Now, what does it do?
May I ask a question, sir? Sorry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Because you mentioned something that I really want to know more. You said
Sure.
it runs well on the H3C hardware.
Yes.
So I want to know why would it perform more, run well? What's the
Why do I make that statement?
why are you saying it runs well on the H3C?
Let me explain to you. During the demo, this will become very clear to you as well. What I'm saying is that because any other vendor out there, right, when they integrate their own products onto their hardware, that integration is tighter. It's better because, for instance, on our servers we have our HDM, which is our version of iDRAC and of ILO. Our software integrates into that HDM controller to give you really good statistics in terms of fan speeds, temperatures, heat zones inside of your servers, and so on. Now, because those sensors are not in the exact same place in a Dell or an HP server, those integrations are not as good. But from a functionality perspective, there is absolutely no difference. We don't penalize you in any way if you're running it on another vendor server. Okay, it's just the way that our software and our hardware speaks to one another that you get a feeling of, the integration is a lot more, is a lot better. But performance-wise, for instance, if you're running it on a HP machine with the same specs as an H3C machine, the performance will be exactly the same. There's no penalization or penalty for that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, great stuff. Right. So back to the spec vert. It's an interesting thing. We've been telling people about spec vert for quite some time. Last night, I did a little bit of digging on exactly how do they actually do this, which is very, very interesting. And it means that if you look at the screen, you see those little tiles. Now, every one of those tiles is a virtual machine with different application loads in it. The one that we actually did the best in was when we used a call generation software. That actually software that was generating calls through the hypervisor and then checking how many calls actually was dropped over a 48 hour period, and we managed to score. And if you read the slide and you want me to explain the slide, the math, we can do that a little bit later. But ultimately, it meant that our hypervisor managed to run more test rounds of those specific workloads that were running in those tiles or little clusters of VMs than anybody else. And it's been true for the last 3 years. So when I show you this, you could say, yeah, it's a bunch of marketing. And I agree with that. But what we're showing is the fact that we have pedigree when it comes to this product. This is not a product that we've been developing, as I say, for just a few years or just as a knee-jerk reaction to what VMware has done. This is something that's got a lot more substance. It's something that we are working on continuously. We are developing this continuously. New versions are coming out continuously. We've recently changed to a new core operating system because we reached pretty much the end of what we could do with the previous CentOS core. So from there on, we're developing this thing all the time and all the way.
So yeah.
Sorry, I just muted Rossi there. Okay, so let's talk about the architecture. All right. So how does the whole thing fit together? So many of you might have seen this slide. This is the core slide. It actually gives you a very good idea of how the product, how it puts together, how does it work, and how does it also start comparing with a VMware. So if you look at the top portion there, we've got H3C, CAS, CVM. The M denotes that it's the management platform. And underneath that, we've got the CBK. And the K denotes that it's the kernel. So think of it this way. When we compare it to VMware, then CVM will typically be your virtual center server. And then CBK will then typically be your ESXi server. Okay, so that's the way that they are split up. Now, where we differ from VMware is that you don't have to purchase a license for the management portion. When you have VMware, you have to license Virtual Center separately. You have to buy a license with a feature set that you would like Virtual Center to be able to do, and that is a separate license apart from your kernel and your per core license that you pay for ESXi. With us, when you download the ISO files, you actually get the CVM and the CVK on the same file. You also don't have to license the CVM separately, as I said before. There is two versions of it. There is a standard and an enterprise version, and we will get to that a little bit later. But ultimately, you can actually install the CVM on each and every one of your nodes if you wish. And you don't pay a license premium for that, which means it opens you up to a lot more management, and you can have a lot more of these management engines running in your data center or in your cluster, stretch cluster, however you want to set this up, without paying a penalty when it comes to the licensing. Okay, so let's see how does this fit into the ecosystem. And as I said earlier, it is a building block. I always use the Lego analogy. I know a lot of people think it's boring, but it's the best way. That is a Lego piece in the much bigger ecosystem of what we offer. At the top, we look at some of the verticals that we have. We play this in government space, we in enterprise financing, transportation, and a whole bunch of verticals that we have very good representation of CAS and its associated products like our HCI and like our cloud product that is represented in there. We've got ways to virtualize the bare metal, and in the slide you see a VMware VM is in red, and the reason for that, everything is in the same, will become clearer in the next few slides, because this is where we start talking about the strategy. We're talking about the strategy of why we are not in the game to say we are here to take your VMware completely out. It is the wrong approach. Typically, people don't like to hear, and like I always say, they might still have bruised ribs from VMware charging them a lot of money for renewals, and the last thing you want to do is walk in there and say, I'm here to take out all your VMware. It generally doesn't sit well. So I've had a few questions in some of the presentations that I've been doing, and people are asking me, so how do you compare with regards to high availability and DRS and SRM and all those kind of things when it comes to the product? The question is valid, but it's also a loaded question, and the answer is also slightly different to what you would find in VMware. So first of all, because our CVM, the management component, runs in a stateful failover cluster, it means that we actually apply high availability in two different ways. We have the CVMs running in a cluster, a stateful failover cluster, which means that the management platform is in a cluster. So think of it as taking two virtual center servers and putting those two virtual center servers in a high availability cluster, or making them highly available to each other. Okay, we can have a maximum of 3 of those per cluster that is active. Doesn't mean you can't have more. It just means you can only have 3 at a time. So a lot of people then say, whoa, hang on. Does that mean I can only have 3 nodes in a high availability cluster? And the question is loaded, and here's the loaded answer. No, that's not what it means. It just means that from a management perspective, a CVM perspective, you can have 3 of them. But from a high availability, from a VM perspective and an application perspective, you can have as many as you want in that cluster. So I brought this up specifically because there was a lot of questions and a lot of people asking around that, and it seems like the slides and the information that's been going out to the customers has been a little bit vague when it comes to that. But I'll show you in the demo exactly where we headed with that. And this is the one, right? This is CAS and VMware that coexists. So what we've done is that we have an API that was written by VMware with our R&D guys. We actually link the virtual center server and our CVM together, and then we can do like management. So we from CAS can now manage the virtual center server or the VMware cluster, start virtual machines, stop them, reboot them, snap them, back them up, all those kind of nice things we can now do. And everything we do is logged. So if we start a machine on VMware, we actually write a log that says, the CAS CVM did this. So it's completely traceable, it's completely auditable to see which one of these management components we're doing what in the environment. So this puts us in a unique position where we can go to the customer and say, Mr. Customer, let's take CAS and install it on some free hardware you might have lying around. Now, because it's a hardware agnostic system now, they might have a few machines that they would like to start using, or maybe they didn't renew all the licenses on the previous round from VMware, so they've got some idle hardware. We are saying, let's install CAS into the environment, and you can start running these two in parallel with each other. And because we can manage each other, it becomes unified in terms of the management, and it becomes almost like a disaster recovery plan for the both of them, because we can run the virtual machines on either one of them, snap them, back them up, or whatever we would like to do. And then if you're happy with the product, then why don't you start migrating? Why don't you then say, okay, I'm happy with it, I've tested it, it works for me. Let's start moving away from VMware entirely. And then let's do one or two things. Let's shrink the VMware footprint to something that is much smaller and much cheaper to license if you wish to keep VMware, or in a year or year and a half's time, you can say, well, look, we don't need VMware anymore, and we are happy to run on CAS. So it gives you that flexibility in order to do that. The question that I get from people long before they ask me what the price of CAS is how am I going to migrate from one to the other one? And this is the part that is really cool, and this is the part that we're going to demo, and you'll see this in action. And the answer to the question is the ease of use is as simple as linking the two systems together with the API, and then actually clicking on the virtual machine and bringing it across, and actually just migrating it. Now that heterogeneous migration tool is included in the CVM. So there's no cost for that migration tool. It doesn't cost anything. If you do have a very old virtual machine or old operating system, we're talking MT4 or maybe old hardware, and you want to do a V2V or P2V with that, we do have a separate little product called MoveSure that you can use for that. So pretty much in any scenario you can think of, we can migrate the data for you from wherever to CAS. So very, very flexible when it comes to moving it. And because it's so easy to migrate, and we don't manipulate the actual machines when we bring them across, we only make a copy of it. It makes falling back, or if emergency plan or something like that, a lot easier, and a lot puts the customer at ease if he sees that his existing VMs are still exactly where they were, and if something goes wrong, you can start them back up again, and life is as it was before. So that's something I will show you in the demo. Now, from a licensing perspective, we make this very clear. This is where we vastly differ from our VMware friends. We do not license per core. We license per socket, per physical CPU. So we don't care if there's 1 or 1 million cores in the actual CPU. You purchase one license, and that license is yours for life, because it is also perpetual. So that means that there's no subscription and no compulsory support. Sorry, let me say that again. The first year is compulsory. The support is compulsory. After that, you have the choice whether you want to take support going forward for more years. But at no point will H3C penalize you for not having active support. If you do have a problem and you would like to log a call and you don't have active support, you can do that, no problem. We will assist you with that call, and you will only pay time and material based for that specific call. At no point is anybody going to tell you that you need to pay return to support or RTS. We're not going to say, oh, you've been out of support for 2 years. You first have to catch up before we help you. That will never happen with H3C. You also don't have to have a subscription, because we don't have a subscription, in order to get new releases. So from that specific build, everything that we put onto it, add features, add functions, securities, all that kind of, you are entitled to that for free forever. In terms of upgrade, if you start off with the standard edition and wants to upgrade to enterprise, you purchase a Delta license, which is just the portion from the one to the other one, and you can apply that. You can apply that in place. You don't have to reinstall or do anything fancy. Then we have a portal where you can bind and unbind licenses. So this comes in very handy, and this speaks to the perpetuality of it, that when you have a new series or you want to take your old hardware and upgrade it to new hardware with more cores or stronger CPUs, you typically go and you unbind the license from the old machine, and you take the same license and apply that to the new machine, therefore keeping the fact that you've got perpetual licenses. So it's very, very flexible when it comes to the licensing. Okay. We have two types of licenses. Our trial license is available for 180 days. It is a fully functional license. It is an enterprise license that you can use in order to test. I think 180 days is quite a bit of time. 6 months, you should have an idea whether you would like the product or not after that. So, also, you don't have to apply for a license. When you download the ISO file and you install the product, it automatically goes into 180 days of evaluation. So no need to ask us for any licenses or trial licenses or so. You just install the product. Also, there seems to be some confusion. We don't need a underlying operating system. I've heard people ask me, so what version of Linux do I need to install before I install CAS? You download the ISO file, you mount the ISO file and install the product, and everything will be done for you. Alrighty. Okay, so now how do we compare? So I've just told you that we compare well with VMware and from a features and functions perspective. So we've got this matrix that gives you a very good understanding of which features and functions are typically in a vSphere Essentials kit, a standard version subscription, and a vSphere Foundation, and how also CAS Standard and CAS Enterprise compete with one another. So this table, obviously we will share the slides with you. This table and the one in the next page gives you an idea of how do we compare the products with each other. So when you get these slides, you can actually take these and use them as a reference when you have discussions with your customers, or you're looking for a solution that you can get an idea of how the features and the functions actually compare. I'm going to take a minute, just if anybody has questions at this point in time. Alrighty, nothing. Cool. So this is, and I know we've recently got a success case when we were working with Telefonica in Italy, which is a major telco for them, and we won a deal there to run the entire environment on CAS. But this one was actually quite an awesome one as well. Another case that we've had with China Aerospace Science and Industry. That we actually 10,000 CPUs and 61,000 virtual machines that we're running on that solution, which I think for a hypervisor that's been very little known in the international market shows a huge presence in terms of Chinese application and the scalability of just how big we can scale this thing. Right, so now we're going to go over to the demo. So in the demo, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the interface. We're going to then create a brand new virtual machine on Virtual Center that we will spin up and make it live so that you can see this is not a recording. We'll migrate that to CAS, and we'll make sure that the CAS tools have come alive and the virtual machine has come across and it's usable, just to give you an idea of how quick it is and where the limitations is on the network, if there is, and so on. And then we'll have an open Q&A session where you can ask some questions with regards to that. So just give me 1 second. I just want to connect to the VPN. I might lose you for just a second. If so, I will come back soon. Okay, great. Right, can everybody see my screen? It's all good. Just give me a thumbs up if there's anybody. Thanks, Kapali.
Oh, we can. Thanks, Kristen.
Okay, guys. So once the product is installed, this is the page that you'll be faced with, and we do a login. That is typically the kind of dashboard that that you are met with. So if you see disclaimer, if you see the Chinese characters on the right hand side here, don't be alarmed. This version that we are running here is a version that has a patch on it with Chinese, so that our Chinese colleagues can also use this. So don't be alarmed. You won't see that in the product at all. So you look at the dashboard. A very quick overview of the dashboard gives you an idea of the hosts that you have, the top hosts in terms of memory usage, virtual machines, and memory usage of the virtual machines. Just a quick overview of what's happening here. Now, when we click on the compute portion, then all of a sudden this is going to start looking very familiar if you are a VMware techie, or you know the VMware environment well. You will see that we use the same format of navigating in the actual dashboard. We have a list of the virtual machines and hosts and so on the left hand side, and any of that, when you click on it, will give you the actual summary, the configure, and so give you all that. Now, earlier, Peter, you were asking about the integration, the question that you were asking about the integration. Why does it work better? And I will give you a quick example of that. If I click on a node, now all these nodes in here are H3C nodes, right? And I go to the hardware monitor. When we talk about this kind of integration, where I can now actually see the processors, I can view the memory, I can actually see which slots in this machine is used and which are not used. This is the kind of integration that is just that much better with H3C hardware, because we have got the HDM, which gives us all this information and feeds this information right back into the hypervisor layer. So when it comes to managing this and understanding a little bit more of the hardware portion and the underlying hardware and the state of that hardware, the integration into the H3C is just that much better. Now, it doesn't mean that you will not get any of these if you run it on HP or on Dell, but you might not get all of them, or some of the values might not be 100% correct. So just on that point, this is what I was referring to. But from a performance perspective and the rest of the system and the way that we will handle the virtualization is absolutely no other difference. When it comes to automation and integration and so on, obviously having access to the hardware and the state of that hardware just gives you that little bit of an edge. Peter, I hope that clears things up for you as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, so what we have here is a cluster of 3 machines. We quite fortunate to have, as you can see, quite a bit of resources available. What we do not have in this cluster is shared storage. We're only running local storage, and it's like that by design, because every migration we do when we do the demo is not only a migration from a host, but it's also a storage vMotion. So if we move it from one to the other one, we actually do a actual storage vMotion or a storage migration of the disk as well. So for demo purposes, it actually comes in quite handy. Okay, so when we go to this little button over here, which is the heterogeneous virtualization, you will see that I have 2 virtual centers that is linked to this CVM at this point in time. So let's go quickly to here. 229. Now let's do a quick. We'll spin up a virtual machine and then do a migration, so you guys can see. Okay, and as I said before, this is live, so we haven't recorded this. We'll show you this in real time. So I have a template. I've got a Windows 2022 template that I'm going to quickly use and just create a VM from that template. Okay, we'll call this machine Friday because it is Friday today. Hey, oops. Friday, and we'll stick it in there. That's fine. We've got an NVMe drive here, so we'll put it on there so it's nice and quick. All right. We look at the tasks. You can see we're creating the virtual machine. Should be rather quick. Okay, here we go. Let's go to VM Friday and fire it up. Okay, virtual machine's up and running. Let's just log into it quickly. So what we have here is an installation of 2022 with VM tools installed already onto it, and then just the updates and the patches, most of it, so that we don't have to sit with updates during the demo. Although it did happen a few times before, but that gives you an idea. The virtual machine it's up, it's running, and we're good to go. Okay, when we go back into the CAS and we go to the virtual center, which is 2229, this one in this case, and we click on it, we can now see that we've got an overview of that actual cluster, how many VMs is in there, the machine, the memory, the local storage, and everything. The host that's in there right now, it's only one of them. If we click on the VM list, then we will find, hey, there's a machine called Friday, the one we have just created. Now, as you can see, the memory usage at this point is quite high, and that's because the VM tools has not yet done what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, it takes a little bit of of time before it actually starts ballooning the memory and making the memory available. But we really don't care at this point in time about that, because we can bring that virtual machine across quite easily. Okay, so if I go to Friday and I have a little button over here that says migrate to CAS, okay, it's going to bring up a form for me that we need to fill out. At this point, you can decide if you want to change the name or you want to keep the name the same. For this, we'll just keep it the same. It's already dug into the machine to see that it is a virtual machine with 2022 on it. And then the important portion over here is the migration mode. So if I select autocomplete, what will happen is the VM will be copied from VMware to CAS. We will do a snapshot. We will then QS the databases, and we will then apply the last snapshot to the CAS or the destination VM for that matter, and shut down the source VM immediately. Now, it's not a good idea if you plan on doing this during the day with live workloads, because you can do this, leave it on manual complete, and then we can do all the hard lifting and all the hard work in the background, bring the VM across and do the snapshots, and then keep them in lockstep with each other. Then you can manually go and say, okay, complete the migration for me, which is a much better idea. If you are going to schedule downtime and you're going to do a lot of these over a weekend, you can go ahead and just say autocomplete. For just demonstration purposes, I'll leave it on manual so I can show you, and then that way we can follow it as well. Okay, so at this point, you'll see CAS upgrade is enabled. That means that once the virtual machine has arrived on the destination side, we will then uninstall VMware's VM tools, and install CAS tools, our CAS tools ourselves, which means you don't have to go to every single virtual machine and do that after the fact. Okay. We can select where we want to put it. We'll just select any node, any one of them. Okay. At this point, you can resize the virtual machine. Oversized VMs can be made smaller here, or undersized VMs can be made bigger. For this, we'll just make that 4. And we'll make that 8 gigs of memory. I think currently it's 2 and 4. I haven't got it mistaken. You can resize the disks. And at this point, you can now select which switch do you actually want to connect this virtual machine to. We have seen customers that say, look, I'm not going to move it directly into the production VLAN or the production network right now. I want to take my database server, first log on to it, make sure everything is fine, everything is good before moving it into production. Yeah, we can actually stick it in a migration or remediation VLAN, if you want to call it that, and it will not be alive immediately. For the purposes of this, we'll just move it straight across. Okay, and if we go, okay, now you'll see we are creating a task for migrating that actual virtual machine, and we are starting the migration. Now, if we come here to the VMware side and we go to more tasks, we can actually see the VM and what's happening, the orchestration portion that's coming from the CAS side. And as I said earlier, we log everything in terms of what we do. We can follow the migration path from a VMware perspective. And while all this is going on, we're still good. Our VM is still running like they are. Now, this is the portion that does take a little bit of time. While we do this, I will give you the opportunity to ask any questions if there is any, while we are busy copying the virtual machine. And this is something we do on the fly. We take the VMDK file, and in flight, we convert that to a QCOW2 file, and that gets put on the CAS side. And the actual virtual machine, the source virtual machine, this guy over here is not being touched. We're not changing anything in that VM at this point. We are only copying the data across. We're running off a snapshot as it is right now, and the same for the other side. And yeah.
Mr. No. Mr. Peter asks, where can we download the trial?
We will make available the FTP site that the guys can go and download the trial from. And they can go bananas. Okay. We are almost there. Any other questions, guys? Anything unclear? Anything you would like to see specifically? Well, we've got a few minutes.
So CAS and VC, can they run on the same machine side by side, or these are two different machines and you're migrating from one machine to that?
It's two different pieces of hardware, two different machines.
All right, okay.
Okay. Right. So that has now succeeded. Right. That version has gone through. No activity on this side. VM is still looking good. All right. If we go to the VM migration, we will now find that that server, that machine we just created, is waiting for manual close. Now, if we selected automatic migration mode, this would not happen. What would happen is this machine would immediately get shut down, all right? And the source VM will immediately get shut down, and the destination virtual machine will immediately be started up. So if I go complete on it now, that's exactly what will happen. It will warn me, telling me that it is going to shut down the source VM and start the destination virtual machine on the CAS side. So this is the point where there will be a delay, a slight delay in the, or a downtime, if I can call it that, some quick downtime. When we click on it, we've got to be quick. See here, it will do the last snapshot, remove the snapshot, and then reconfigure the virtual machine, and then immediately shut this thing down. There we go, shutting down. Okay, so this virtual machine is now shut down on the source side. On the cloud side, this side, we are bringing the last incremental backup, or the last incremental snapshot from the source to the destination. And the moment that machine is synchronized, the databases are cleared, we will issue a startup command for that machine. So far this has been pretty painless, right? So far this has been pretty simple. And there we start in the virtual machine. If we go back to compute, stuck it on here, go there, we hit the console, we hit the web page, we give it across. Oops, click in the box, sorry. And there you go, up and running. Okay, so the last thing we're checking, if we go to the summary of that virtual machine, you'll see right now CAS tools are not running yet. It takes about a minute or so for us to just uninstall the VMware version and then install our own version. Now you'll typically see once it starts refreshing the resources, the memory usage will be at 100% because there's no ballooning, and then it'll just drop off. Here we go, it's starting to talk. And as you can see there, CAS tools are now running. That's a migration, guys. That's how we migrate from VMware to CAS. Obviously, this took a little bit longer because we created some virtual machines, but if they're already created on your VMware side and you've got a cluster full of machines, you can imagine bringing these across then becomes very, very simple. And just to reiterate, the functionality that you've just seen is not something that you have to pay for. It's something that we include into the product from the onset.
Christo, just a question. When it's migrating the VM over, does it do a health check on the snapshot? Or if it happens that my snapshot is slightly degraded or corrupted, it'll just migrate the corrupted VM?
It does. First of all, it does a brand new one. Okay, does a brand new one, and then checks it. And if you look at the task, I think it's one of them actually checks the snapshot on both sides to see that they are in sync with each other. So we check the quality of it before we bring it across.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So Miles asks, how is the driver injection of the VM from VMware to CAS handled during the migration?
So are we talking about the virtual? We're talking about the virtual drivers?
Yes, talking about the virtual driver.
Okay, great. So we have, just like VMware, we have what we call Virt IO drivers. And those Virt IO drivers really are there's only three of them. One is the disk driver, the other one's a networking driver, and then the other one is basically a chipset driver. So when we convert the file from VMDK to QCount2, those Virt IO drivers are attached to the virtual machine. Now this is all managed by the API between the two management environments. Now, what happens inside of that API? Sorry, that's above my pay grade. I can't tell you with the nuts and bolts, but the API is responsible for doing all that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Just a note, guys. You can see now the memory usage on that actual virtual machine has dropped down because of the memory ballooning. So remember, our CAS tools do the same thing as VMware tools. Memory ballooning makes them, input smoother, mouse, keyboard input, all those kind of things. It's a must-have in all our virtual machines. So very important that you install this. Also very important that we install this on your behalf when you migrate, because this could turn out to be quite a bit of work. You have to do it manually. Alrighty. Anything else, guys?
Thanks, everyone.
Gift? I see there's a hand up.
Yes, I just have a quick question regarding this hypervisor. Does it also support hardware pass-through to virtual machines?
Yes, it does. We support, that's the Virt IO drivers exactly do that. So
Okay.
if we actually take it one step further, we can take a bunch of GPUs and put them in a group and then virtualize the vGPUs for you as well, if they are NVIDIA's. But we support pass-through drivers for independent disk. We support pass-through drivers for SmartNIC as well.
Okay, no, good, thanks.
Okay.